All right, we're back out in the garage for another episode. I had some parts show up in the mail last night, so we're gonna put a pause on the wiring harness for a minute, and we're gonna see about getting this drivetrain sitting there and mocked up. So let's take a look.
No, you're not bringing home another piece of junk.
All right, so my mounts all showed up. Got my tail shaft mount. Got my motor mounts. So I need to find some bolts, get them bolted on the engine, and we're going to do a few other things on this while we're mocking this up. This intake just has a couple bolts holding it down, so we're going to go ahead and bolt it down permanently. And then I've got the TBI computer control distributor. We're going to clean up and swap in here. And then we're going to bolt the mounts on, and I'm just going to put the bell housing and the transmission on. I'm not going to put flywheel and clutch and all that on it yet because I don't have all that yet. But we're going to just set it in place, and then I can start seeing how my clutch linkage will go, how my shift linkage will go. Maybe finish out this steering shaft linkage, get that figured out, and kind of do some of that stuff. So transmission is over here. I really haven't looked at this thing a whole lot, other than I did spin it. It spins smooth, and it shifts through all the gears fine, and they all seem to be working. You know, when you go in reverse, it goes the opposite direction. I don't feel any grinding around or anything in there. I'm going to go ahead and mock this up, and then when I take it back out, before we put it in permanent, I am going to pull that front dust shield and just take a look at that bearing. And we'll probably, there's some grease seals in here. I think we'll change those. There's a gasket here. We'll probably change that. And I want to make sure that that all the gears look good in there. But, you know, just turning it, it feels good. You know, and there's not a bunch of play going on. I mean, them little 3-speed Saginaws are pretty simple, so there's not a whole lot to them. Okay, so and I need to pull the drive shaft out of this car too. The drive shaft is still sitting in that thing, and these cars have a carrier bearing, so I got to unbolt that and get that drive shaft out before we do this. So plenty of fun stuff to do here, so let's I'll probably get the drive shaft out first, and then we'll go ahead and start putting some stuff on the engine. And another thing we're going to do while that's in there is we're going to get all this mess cleaned up and painted and put on the engine. And we'll just leave it on there. We'll just pull the engine back out with it, with all of it on there. Okay, so let's get to it. All right, so I'm under the car, just pulling the drive shaft. I haven't really showed the underside of this car yet, but I want to show how nice everything is under here. I mean, everything is good and solid. This has all been sanded and painted under here. Got this nice new Flowmaster exhaust on it. Nice chunk of money there that I didn't have to put on, which is really nice. All right, so I'm gonna get the drive shaft out of this and set this thing back down, and then we're gonna get the stuff on the motor, get it bolted to the tranny, and we'll get it set in there. And I gotta find the cross members sitting around here somewhere, so I gotta find that and find the bolts to it. So, all right, that's where we're at. All right, so drive shaft is out. And this has a carrier bearing on it. You know, it feels pretty good. Doesn't look bad. But I think I'm gonna have the drive shaft shop check that out. And actually, I don't know if they can check this one out or not, because the drive shaft out of the stick shift is over there. And it might be a different length, so I'm gonna have to see. But it looks like U-joints have been replaced. I got Zerk fittings on them. But this thing is no fun to get in and out on X-frame, so I want to make sure it's right when we put it in there. So put the car back down, put the front end up on some jack stands, and that'll be what we're going to do this week, is get all the stuff cleaned up, bolted on this. We'll just make it all one video, and we'll get it sitting in there. And like I said, try the header, try the Z-bar, and I had to order, there's a clutch ball that threads in right there. I had to order one of those, so that's coming. And I'll probably just make a bracket for this out of, I've got this, which is this is the engine, actually 6-cylinder engine bracket for the Z-bar. And this is pressed in there, but you get, I got this ball, came out of that car, and it's got a thread, it's threaded on the back. So I think what we're gonna do is pop this dude out of there, and we can just make a bracket there that'll bolt to the frame and line that up good, I think. I might look online and just see what that bracket costs. I mean, if it's something silly like 20 bucks or something, I'll just go ahead and buy it. But yeah, the 6-cylinder and the V8 Z-bar brackets are definitely different than one another. So once I get that on there, then I got to see, is the shift linkage the same? Is the clutch linkage the same? You know, the rods. So we may be having to lengthen or shorten those, which isn't a big deal. I did a swap back before I started doing this channel. I had a 50 DeSoto that had the old what do they call that? Wasn't a Dynaflow. It was kind of an combination of an automatic stick. It had a torque converter, but it had a clutch facing on the back, and you could put this thing, when you first start the car, you push in the clutch, you put the car in gear, and you didn't have to use the clutch again until you shut the car off, or unless you went up into reverse. And I can't remember the name of that transmission. It's a really weird transmission. But anyway, I switched it over to just a regular Plymouth 3-speed, and I had to shorten the arms, but it all worked out good. So same principle here. I don't think we'll have any problems getting it done. Okay, so I got to dig up some bolts for these motor mounts, start cleaning some stuff up, and we'll get her in there and see what she looks like. All right, so I went ahead and got my intake bolted down, and switched out the distributor with the TBI distributor, and I kind of cleaned everything up, and I'm gonna get a new rotor and a new distributor cap, because you know this one's got some wear on it. But I'm gonna go ahead and buy a new module, but I don't know if anybody's had this experience before, but these GM original ignition modules in this thing, these things are bulletproof, and they seem to last forever. You know, the ones that they sell at the big box auto parts store, you know, I know they're made overseas, and I've had a lot of them fail, and I've kept really old ones of these in my toolbox, and had to switch them out back to these, and they seem to work better. So I'll probably get a new one, and just for a spare to keep in the car. But if this is good, you know, this is the original GM one, I'm gonna leave it in there. So anyway, got the intake bolted down. I need to, and kind of the same thing for some of these sensors. Like this is the water temperature sensor for the computer. So this has got made in USA stamped on it somewhere. And kind of the same deal. I clean this up, and I'm gonna use it again. And if it goes out, I'll throw another one in. And the map sensor also, those are the original GM map sensor. Same deal with that. So, you know, they're inexpensive, but I'll put them in there, keep a spare. If it goes out, we'll swap it. But I've been trying to get this old temperature sensor out of here, and it is man, it's got some Loctite, and it is Loctite. So I need to work on getting that thing out of there, and then I need to get a bushing to put this sensor in there, because this sensor has to go there. So if I gotta cut it off and tap that old piece out, or maybe even put a little heat on it. I hate to put heat on an aluminum intake, but I don't know if it's just galled or if it's that darn Loctite. Man, that thing is in there. I had a pipe wrench on it and a cheater bar, and all I did was destroy it. I got my motor mounts on there, got the harmonic balancer pushed all the way back into place, and I just got the bolt in there. I got to put the pulley on that before I torque that. But that's how far we got tonight, and we'll pick up a little bit more tomorrow night. See if I can get this stupid thing out of there. And what else we got going on over here? Yeah, starting to clean up some stuff and paint it. And yeah, so that's an aftermarket map sensor, I think. Yeah, that one says GM on it. So I'll probably use that one. Also, I noticed on my TBIs, I took my TBIs apart, kept the parts off the one that had the stuff busted off it that I want to keep, but then I noticed that the throttle position sensor for the throttle body I'm going to use is different. So that's the throttle position sensor for that the wiring harness has the plug for, and this is the one that goes on this throttle body, and they will not interchange. So I'm might have to. I should be able to either buy that plug online or go by the junkyard and snatch that thing up. Got the drive shaft out last night, and this is up on some blocks, ready to drop that sucker in there. Okay, so that's it for tonight, and we'll pick this up probably tomorrow night. All right, that sucker was no fun at all to get out. I tried heating it and beating it, and ended up cutting the top of it off with a chisel, and then driving a chisel down into it, and just kind of chipped away at the edges, and finally got that stupid thing to turn. I don't know what kind of Loctite they had in there, but man, it was tight. So anyway, I knew I had done this before, putting one of these sensors in an aluminum intake, and this is a metric thread, and this is a 1/2-inch pipe thread. So I cannot remember where I got these adapters, but I remember when I bought them, I thought, well, if I'm gonna get one, they were only like $5, I'll get another one. I think I got them off of eBay. So that will adapt that sensor to that aluminum intake. So there's my temperature sensor. Okay, so I think what we're gonna try to do is go ahead and pull this thing off the stand, throw the bell housing on it, put transmission in it, you know, just kind of bump that all together with a couple of bolts. And I gotta dig up the cross member. It's around here somewhere. I think it's buried in that van, and find the bolts for it, and then we'll just get this sitting in place. And then once we do that, we can start kind of bolting stuff onto it, and you know, cleaning up all those brackets, getting all that bolted onto it, and see how all this is going to go. So yeah, so that's what you need for that sensor. The sensor on the side, I'm just going to use I'm going to use that gauge, the temperature gauge out of there. So I think that I can just get a stock sensor for that, and it should screw into that. I think. We'll find out. Okay, so yeah, let's move some junk around, find some more junk, and we'll bolt together some junk and throw it in some junk. Hey all, took a trip out to where the parts car is sitting today. I need to grab the clutch fork out of this thing and kind of keep my eye open around here, because this is definitely copperhead season in Missouri. And I hadn't even thought about it, so I called the guy to tell him I was going to drop by his house, and he's like, well, watch for copperheads. So now I'm a little skittish about it, but hopefully we won't see any. So let's take a look at what we got. All right. Tell you what, I've been wanting to get my hands on this car from him too for a long time. This thing is nice. It's a 67, I think, Fairlane. And I mean, this thing is super straight, rust free. Been sitting down here at this place for a long time. I think he's got to find a title to it, but it's a 6-cylinder, 3-speed on the column. And I'm gonna try to snatch this thing up from him one of these days. So yeah, we'll see. But there is the parts car that I've been pulling all the stuff off of for the Impala. So it's see, it's a 6-cylinder car and it's pretty rusted out. And the same rust spots as the other one, you know, the eyebrows and the hood's worse. And this is a post car, you know, the other car is a hardtop. So I've snatched quite a bit off this thing. I've got some wasps in there too. So I need the clutch fork, and I hope I can grab it. I tried to come pull it out yesterday, but it wouldn't just pull out. I need to take the bell housing loose. So training out of it. A few wasps in there. Scare them off with. Right down with all this aluminum siding down here. The window trim. I'll try to get down rid of that. Get spider webs out. Get out of here, suckers. Out. I don't want to get stung by anything, and I don't want to get bit by anything. Let's get under this. All right, so I'm going to shut this off, try and pull these bell housing bolts out and see if I can get this fork out of here, because I need the forking thing. And do one more quick little walk around before we're done. All right, so after some persuading, we managed to get it. Had to cut a notch in that bell housing. That thing was not coming off. And I think on those you got to actually turn the motor over, take the clutch off, take the flywheel off to get the back bell housing bolts, kind of like that old Plymouth. So, but we got it. So I'm thinking I'm to the point I got just about everything I need off this car. You see where I cut those patches out of the back that I fixed the eyebrows with. There's only one door left on this car. The other 3 doors I used to make the quarter panels and the doors on the other car. So there's a locked up 6-cylinder sitting in it. I think the frame's good. I think he wanted to keep the frame for something, but I think I think it is donated all that is just about worth donating. But you never know. I might run into some other little part and come back again. All right, so we're going to head out of here, go back to the shop. There's that 67 again. And so if he doesn't do something with that, I might end up trying to snatch that one of these days. Somewhere on the list of builds that I want to do Okay, so let's head out and we'll get back to the shop. All right, back in the shop tonight. So tonight we are going to put the bell housing on this thing, slide train in it, throw a couple of bolts in it, and set it in the frame. If I can find the cross member, I got to look for that, but I'm sure it's here somewhere. So I pulled out the other drive shaft, and it looks like the 3-speed drive shaft is longer than the Turbo 350 drive shaft that was in there. So I am going to have to get a carrier bearing put on this thing, and because it's toast, and probably put U-joints in it too. So no big deal. All right, so I'm just kind of unburying stuff here. I had to unbury my cherry picker. I got to find that cross member. I know it's here somewhere, and we'll get all this stuff bolted together, get a few bolts in it, and set it in place and see what we got here. All right, I found my cross member and the bolts, so that was good. And we got the trans bolted to the bell housing and the motor. I'll tell you one thing I've said a few times, I'm more of a Mopar guy than a Chevy guy in the amount of projects I've built, but you got to appreciate Chevy's interchangeability. It's like everything bolts to everything. So, you know, that transmission came off the 6-cylinder. This motor came out of the car. That bell housing, I don't know what it came off of. I just saw it on Marketplace that it was a small block Chevy aluminum bell housing, and all the transmission bolts line up, and the center hole for the front plate of the transmission lines up. Clutch fork fits, you know. So I'll hand it to the bow tie brothers on that one, that they know how to build stuff to interchange, and that's good for hot rodders. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and bolt that cross member in, and then as we slide this back, I should be able to slide that, take a jack and slide that tail shaft up onto the cross member. So let me get that bolted in. I'll set the camera up, and we'll record the rest of sliding this thing in and see how it goes. All right, I don't know how exciting dropping a motor in will be, but we'll go ahead and film it. So I haven't seen a motor sitting in this car in quite a few years, since way before I pulled it home. The last motor he had sitting in here was in that white truck I painted on some other videos. I need to get me one of those motor tilter overs to do this. I always say that, and then I just end up throwing it in there. Whoa, look out. Let's see how we're getting here. I'm starting to get there. The valve cover's sitting on there. I guess I could take them off. I don't want junk falling down in the motor. Still got to repaint them things. The paint on them kind of goofed up and cracked when I was doing it. Not sure why. pretty good. Oh, bend my valve cover up. Sure is a lot easier doing this with the front end off these things. Bit. So I'm gonna have to pick it up a little bit. Right up against the jack stands, wouldn't you know it? Alright, we have to relocate those. Slide them back a little bit. Or maybe bring them out here. Let's do that. To remember this when I put the drivetrain in for good. These have to be over here. All right. Now let's see if we can get it. That's looking better. Oh, don't break the distributor off. Let's see if we're up on top of that cross member or not. We are on the cross member, so that's good. And a little bit. Just a hair. Awful close. All right. Where's my crowbar? All right, that mounts on there. Now it should drop right on the other one. Let's go. Trying to go. Nope. All right, I might need to pull that tail shaft over just a hair. Come up against. There it is. All right, right on there. That's what I want. That was fun. Okay. So we're going to leave it there while we kind of mock up the clutch linkage. Anyway, while we mock up the clutch linkage and the shift linkage. So I was looking over here and I thought that ball went into this hole, and I screwed it in there and tried to hold that Z-bar in there, and it's like way back against the firewall. But then I got looking, and under the oil dipstick hole, there's another hole. And I don't think I've ever seen that on another small block Chevy, but I'm sure they're there. But that clutch ball, that rotating ball for the Z-bar, threaded right into that. And then the bottom linkage went into the clutch fork, and it puts the Z-bar up here, which is pretty much in line because your clutch rod is going to come out here. So that we should be able to make that work. I'm gonna have to see. I don't know if there's a different Z-bar for the 6-cylinder than there is the V8 or not. May have to look into that if I can't make it work. But my bigger concern right now is this. Is this all gonna work around the header? Now I noticed they made this big space between the last couple of tubes on the header, and that seems to be right where that is. So, and these headers are made for this year Impala. So we're just gonna have to try it and see, and whether the shift linkage will go around that last tube. It looks like it does. That tube's got a pretty sharp turn down, and here's your shift linkage rods right there. So, you know, that's all part of the process of making this thing work. You know, worst comes to worst, it would be cheaper for me to give up the headers than it would be to, you know, could convert this to a hydraulic clutch. I've done that several times, and do a 3-speed floor shifter. You know, I think it would be easier that if this isn't going to work, I'll just get a set of those aftermarket ram horn manifolds. You can get them pretty reasonable, and do that, and then just turn that pipe down into this pipe. So anyway, we'll see. This is as far as I'm going to go for tonight, and I think that's going to be it for this video. And we will pick this up. We're going to do a long day Saturday out here. I'm going to try to get all this linkage cleaned up and mocked up, get it figured out, get that header on there. Maybe get, you know, depending on the time, maybe get some of that, you know, the brackets for the front of the engine cleaned up and put on there. I gotta go get a water pump. I thought about using this old water pump because the one that came off this van, it's got rebuild stamped on it, and it's really smooth. But man, this thing has been parked since 2004, so it might be a safe bet that engine hasn't run for almost 20 years. So for 37 bucks, I think we'll just throw a new water pump on it. I'll go pick one up on the way home tomorrow, and then I don't have to clean that thing up before I paint it, and we'll just get a new one and paint it up and throw it on. All right, well, let's go inside, clean up, see what the Lord's got to say tonight, and then I'm going to make me some dinner, watch some Cardinal baseball, and that's it. So, talk to you in just a minute. Hey, y'all, hanging out in here with my my good buddy Roxy, the kitty cat. She's a good friend, and anytime I pick up my Bible, she is right here beside me, and I think that's God telling me something. Anyway, what I want to talk about tonight, I've been thinking a lot the past week, and talking to some people on the old tweeter about the student loan forgiveness thing. Now, you might wonder what that has to do with scripture, and I'm just going to give you my thoughts on it, and you do what you want with it. If anybody saw my video about Christmas, about my past history with alcoholism and drug addiction, and my being saved from that life and learned to follow Jesus Christ, I can tell you I was a very, very irresponsible young man. But it was not the fault of my parents. My parents did their darndest to raise me right. And when I got to the point in my life where I was in bad shape and I needed help, I knew where to turn because they had taught me that. And it wasn't that they taught me that by telling me that, it was they taught me that by the way they lived. And I saw them live a Christian life. I saw in their just in demeanor, and the way they loved, and the way they went to church, and the way that when our family didn't have much money, my father was a union bricklayer. That every Sunday he put his money in the plate in church, even when we were short, because it was the right thing to do, and he taught me that, and that was God's money, and it went to, God got our first fruits, not the leftovers. But one of the things they taught me was to be a responsible young man and to be honest, have integrity, and pay my bills. And it took me a few years to learn that. When I was a younger man, I didn't do such a good job at that. But once I got saved and gave my heart to the Lord, then my conscience woke up, and my conscience and the Holy Spirit were telling me that that I wasn't living right, and that taking advantage of people was wrong, and borrowing money from people was wrong, and not paying back loans, and borrowing from my parents and not paying it back was wrong. And I think that is so important. It's our responsibility first to teach our children that. Now, that's not saying they're not going to go astray and screw up. I'm living proof they'll go astray and screw up, and I'm sure there's a couple guys out there, maybe a couple girls out there too, that have done the same thing, and that's just part of our life walk that brought us back to the Lord. And if you're not there yet, I'll be praying for you. But anyway, let's talk. The Bible verse I got for tonight it's in Hebrews 12, and it's Hebrews 12 verse 11, and it says, "All discipline for the moment seems not to be joyful, but sorrowful. Yet to those who have been trained by it, afterward it yields the peaceful fruit of righteousness. Therefore, strengthen the hands that are weak and the knees that are feeble, and make straight paths for your feet, so that the limb which is lame may not be out of joint, but rather be healed." So, like I said, it's our responsibility as parents to teach our children those things. Even if they go astray, and many times they will, they're gonna need that. They're gonna need to know where to turn to. So we need to discipline with love. We need to be firm. We need to not enable our children, if they're in a bad time in their life or in a bad way, constantly bailing them out, constantly enabling them, and handout after handout to where they can't stand on their own 2 feet, I believe is not the right way to go about it. We need to pray for them, and we need to teach them. And if you're listening to this and you're a younger person and you're went through some of the struggles that I went through, and maybe you're borrowing a lot of money off of mom and dad and not paying it back, and you're going out and doing your thing and having fun, but you got debts that haven't been paid, and things that you put your name on that you said you would pay back and you didn't. Your integrity is important. Not only to your parents, but to your family, to your wives or husbands, to your children, to your employer. You need to be a person of integrity. You need to be a person of your word. And if you're struggling with that, then you need to pray about that. You need to get yourself to a church. You need to pick this up, and you need to read it. And I guess that's all I got for tonight. But I just wanted to say, in light of all the discussion about the student loan thing, my personal belief is it's the parent's responsibility to teach the child responsible borrowing, but it's also your responsibility if you put your name on that loan on that piece of paper and said, I'm going to pay this back, and you took the services that that loan was for, you got the education, that's your debt, and you need to pay that back. That is not some other person's debt or some other taxpayer's debt. And your integrity is worth a lot. And when you may have to make small payments, you may have to refinance, you may have to figure out a way to pay that back. It may take you 10 years to pay it back. But when you do, you're going to know that you had integrity and that you did the honest thing. And that is going to feel way better than somebody coming along right now, wiping out your debt and having that lending institution or whoever it is say, well, we lost a couple $1 billion. We're going to have to recoup that money by raising prices on all these other people. Pay your bills, pay your debt, be good to your parents, and parents, teach those things to your kid. So let's pray about that. Father, we just thank you for this time together today. And I lift up all the parents tonight, that we would be faithful to you, that we would teach our children in ways that are pleasing to you, that we would teach them responsibly, that we would discipline them in love and discipline them responsibly, and that we would teach your message behind that discipline when we have to issue it. And I just pray for all the kids and all the young people out there now who are being raised in this world of rampant materialism, that you would just put the urgency and the need in their heart to be a person of honesty, to be a person of integrity, and to turn to you. And we ask this in the name of your Son, Jesus. Okay, so motor's sitting in there, and next thing we're going to do is try and get everything bolted up and see if we can make it all fit. So all you have a good night, and we'll catch you on the next one.